We're taking a look at the return of Classic Army in the United States in this episode of the Gear Guide. So if you guys follow Airsoft, you'll know that Classic Army's kind of been under the radar for the past year or two when it comes to Airsoft, and you couldn't find their products just about anywhere. Well, it's 2015 and it's October, and all of that has changed. Well, they've hit the US shores with a vengeance and have opened up a branch right here in the United States. And in their absence, they weren't just twiddling their thumbs. They've been really busy. There's a lot of stuff going on, both externally and internally on this gun, and of course their whole new lineup, and we're going to dive on into the externals first. So the CA105M is your DMR platform. It's actually got a 14.5-inch outer barrel, so it's the same length as a standard M4, and the outer barrel is made of metal. If you want to make it longer, it's no big deal. You can just pop the flash hider off. There's 14mm counterclockwise threads, so you can throw a suppressor on here, a barrel extension, or whatever you like. Around that, you get a 13-inch Keymod rail. Now this is Airsoft spec, so keep in mind you want to look for those Airsoft spec Keymod rails. It is a little different than mil spec, so make sure you pick up the right ones. They're available just about anywhere. On the front of the rail, you get a flip-up sight, and then of course in the back you get a matching one. These again are both metal and work really well with locking buttons on the side so you don't accidentally knock them down while you're moving around fighting the enemy. Now moving on to the receiver itself, it is full metal with nice etched markings. They're not white stamped or white painted. I love that. It's nice and subdued. On one side you get SR-25, on the other you get restricted military and law enforcement, and of course you get a unique serial number for each version. Moving on to the ambi fire selector, it is on both sides, and they did go with a stop on this. So if you want to make it semi-auto, it does work, even though it does have safe, semi, and full markings etched on here. Now the side they have it set up for, it is a block cut into the actual fire selector. So you can actually take it past semi and into full, but if you need to lock this out, like for example, your field requires it, if you're running a DMR roll, it's no big deal. Just take a little Allen key, swap the left and the right ones, and then it's gonna block you, preventing you to go into full auto, which is going to be compliant for just about every field or milsim event out there. And for you lefties out there, there's a lot of good news on this rifle. Both the bolt release and the mag release are on the left and the right side, as well as that fire selector I mentioned. So no matter if you're a lefty or a righty, or you like to shoot offhanded, you're going to be able to get to all the controls easily. The magazine itself is a 470 round high cap, which gives you a ton of ammo, and to top it all off, in the box, you get not only one of these, but you get two. In my test, I found these things fed really good, wind them all the way up and let them rip. I didn't have any issues with misfires or skipping whatsoever. And when it's time to adjust a hop up, you just pull on back the charging handle here and you have access to the inside. You can actually also lock it back by pressing down here on the bolt catch on the left side, and then you can get to it and leave it open. What I also like they did is they went with a metal hop up, and it's the big, huge dial type. So it's really easy to adjust, even with gloves on, and with this big opening, you're not gonna be fiddling around in there trying to make it work under stress. Moving on to the back, they give you a sling attachment point here with one on the right, two on the left as part of the sling plate in the back, metal buffer tube, and polymer rear stock and polymer grip to round everything out. And under the stock, they have something really neat, but I'm gonna get to that when we get to the internals. So the mech box itself is full metal and has 9mm bearing bushings to turn the gears, and the gears are set up as a 21:1 ratio. So this thing is really tuned up to be a higher torque machine for you guys doing semi-auto shooting. They got the Classic Army motor in the grip that turns it no problem without any issues, and wiring throughout is the silver strand, which is a huge upgrade from the older Classic Army wiring. If you guys used to run Classic Army, you knew it had that real squishy silicone coating on the outside that would always get cut and nicked, which was just kind of the one little Achilles heel to the Classic Army guns. Well, that is gone now with a hard coating and silver strand to let the juice flow freely throughout the AEG. And now on to the back. As we get to the buffer tube, you can take the buffer tube off and access a quick change spring system, which is a cool touch because normally you have to still get the mech box out for most of those quick change springs. It's like, you know, they do it for you, then you got to still take the grip off and the motor off and everything to get under the hood. Well, the way Classic Army did it, simple buffer tube removal, one screw from down inside the buffer tube, and then you can access the spring change. So if you're on the field and you're shooting a little low or shooting a little high, you can make the adjustments really easy. And of course, the biggest thing the Classic Army's added for the 2015 lineup is they put a MOSFET inline in the buffer tube. So they've actually gone and installed it. So gone are the days of worry about your trigger contacts or trigger response. You guys are going to be set. And they of course have quick disconnects in here so you can still service it and not damage those wires. And on the back side of the MOSFET, they decided, and this is probably one of the first guns I've seen this on, to go with Dean's connectors from the factory. And don't freak out if you guys are like, oh man, that means I gotta cut all the wires off my batteries and swap them to Dean's. Fear not, they actually give you a Dean's to small Tamiya adapter in the box. So for you guys who are running legacy batteries, you'll still be good to go. Taking it out to the chrono, we saw a little bit over 400 feet per second. Now the gun's slated at 395 to 400. We saw about 405 to 410. And we really think that's because of the brand new spring. I guarantee you, give this thing another week or two, a little bit of play, it's gonna settle right down to at or below 400. So you guys could run with this thing anywhere you wanna go. And if you guys wanna turn up, it's no big deal. Because of that quick change spring system, you can dial this thing up to 450 or higher if your field allows to run that DMR roll. Rate of fire was also pretty good for those 21-to-1 gears. Of course, they are designed for torque. You're not going to get insane rate of fire here. You're looking at about 13 on a 9.6, and then on our 11-1 tests on the chrono, you're going to see about 16.3 rounds per second. But again, keep in mind, this gun here is not designed to be a rate of fire hose. This is going to be your semi-auto DMR beast. So guys, if you've been long awaiting the return of Classic Army, I have to tell you, they've really pulled out all the stops with the Keymod rail for the modern look, bringing this rifle back, solid build, 9mm bearing bushings, and of course that MOSFET plus the quick change spring system. They've really added all the features that you look for in a top tier high-end rifle. So if you guys are interested in picking one of these up, all you have to do is check them out at classicarmyusa.com, or you can pick them up at any authorized Classic Army retailer. All right, guys, I want to know, what do you think about Classic Army coming back with a bang like they have? Do you think they're a little late to the game, or do you think they brought all the party favors and they're ready to bring it out? Let me know in the comment section below. Well, guys, that's it for this episode of the Gear Guide. I'll be back in the next episode where we review a really old brand called Caveman Airsoft that uses nothing but bows, sticks, and arrows.